And we are back to the third segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this third segment, as we've been doing for practically every single week now, we are going to be doing a quick recap of all of the NBA games that went down last night. And before I do the recap, I'd like to update everybody on OG Anunoby's injury. It seems like he is going to return today in this game. It's not confirmed yet, but it was highly likely that he is going to end up returning for this game. Now, the last time the Knicks played against the Sixers was like 2 days ago on Sunday, where the Knicks ended up losing 79-73. Obviously, a ridiculously low scoring game. There was some really bad shooting, so hopefully they can turn it around tonight going into this game. I mean, shooting like that is just pitiful, and ending the score, like losing to the Sixers without Joel Embiid, and the fact that you only put up 73 points, like my Brooklyn Nets could put up more points than that. But I digress. Speaking of the Brooklyn Nets, they, thank the Lord, did not play last night. I would have given me a heart attack given all the problems that have been happening, not just in basketball, but in football as well. I'm not going to talk about that though because I am still very, very, very sad that Saquon had to go. But this is basketball, so I'm not going to cry about it. But regardless, let's talk about the Dallas Mavericks. They ended up blowing out the Chicago Bulls. 127-92. Obviously, like this is not the I was talking about 90s basketball and 80s basketball. This is not the 1996 Bulls. They are not the team that anyone thought they were going to be this year. The Mavericks, they've been on a little bit of a win streak though, and it's all thanks to having playing against some really bad teams. I mean, they played the Heat, they played the Pistons, and now they played the Bulls. The Heat are a good team. I'm not saying they're a bad team, but I mean, compared to the Mavericks, especially with Jimmy Butler, like sometimes sitting out in some of these games. But regardless, 127-92, Luka Doncic got a triple double yet again, and he didn't even have to play the fourth quarter. He ended the game 27, 14, and 12, and that adds on to his streak of triple doubles. He didn't get 30 points this time, unfortunately for him. However, his streak of getting triple doubles is now up to 7, so that is 7 straight games of Luka Doncic getting a triple double, which I believe is 4th on the all-time list of most consecutive games with a triple double. Kyrie Irving, while he was playing in this game, he was rather invisible. He ended the game shooting 6 of 14 from the field with 14 points. I don't really know what to think of Kyrie anymore this season. I mean, we all know he's a great ball handler, but if he's going to be this inefficient with his shot selection, I think it's about time he stops taking these difficult shots because we know his play style. He takes a lot of off the dribble mid ranges, and I feel like this type of play style is going to hurt this team more if he doesn't perform on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, he's sort of on the same boat as Damian Lillard, in my personal opinion. Like Damian Lillard, he's got the offense, but it's just he doesn't have the defense. He's a terrible defender, and if he's not getting himself going on the offense, then he is not going to perform. And it's going to not only is he like just not going to perform, it's going to be a liability on the defensive end as well because like he's going to be a cone. He can't stop to park car, those kind of things. But regardless, I completely expected the Dallas Mavericks to end up winning this game. They outplayed them completely, and the Chicago Bulls, like, they did not play well whatsoever. The starters did not play well. The bench did not play well. Nobody played well in this game. Nobody shot well in this game either. They shot 20% from three, only hitting 7 of them. And everybody else was completely inefficient. DeMar DeRozan only took 9 shots to get 13 points. Vucevic ended the game with 13 points on 13 shots. Kobe White ended the game with 12 points on 14 shots. And Ayo Dosunmu ended the game with 9 points on 13 shots. Fantastic. So with that in mind, Alex Caruso ended the game 1 for 6. And with all of these, like with all this shooting in mind, I mean, it makes sense how they ended up blowing out the Chicago Bulls, because they just were not hitting any shots. Now, in other news, because this actually, believe it or not, this is news. The Detroit Pistons, they won a game! Yay! They did it. They're 11-53 now. Yay! They are tied for the worst record in the NBA right now, along with the Washington Wizards. Again, I said it was ironic how the Wizards, they said, don't be that team, and look at where they are. The exact same record as that team. So they ended up beating the Charlotte Hornets, and now the Charlotte Hornets get to do the walk of shame, because any team that loses to the Pistons is just bad, terrible, one of the worst teams in the NBA now. Losing to them, it's a joke. It's a joke if you lose to the Pistons. And it's not even like they played bad either. I mean, the Pistons, they played well, and so did Charlotte. Like, I mean, Charlotte didn't shoot relatively efficiently whatsoever. Brandon Miller ended the game 7 for 17. Ugh. Grant Williams ended the game 6 of 13. Excuse me. And again, nobody really stood out on this Charlotte team, and that's sort of been the common theme for both of these teams. Like, I mean, Cade Cunningham, like he stands out from the Pistons because he like ends the game with like 30 points, but he doesn't end up winning, which is unfortunate. However, in this game, he ended up shooting 8 for 20, 2 for 10 from the field. But a win is a win is a win, especially if it's a blowout win like this one. Jalen Duren shot relatively efficient with 8 for 10, 20 points. And there's not really much that needs to be said about this game other than the fact that it was just two bottom-feeding teams. And the worst of the two ended up coming out and coming through. Now, let's stop talking about the Pistons, because I'm not even gonna lie, I am not a big fan of the Pistons at all. I think they should sell the team, sell the entire franchise for whatever money they can, get rid of him. Nobody wants to watch Pistons basketball. Nobody. I'm gonna say it again. Nobody. Yes, I am still upset that the Brooklyn Nets lost to this team, but regardless, nobody wants to watch them. Now, let's talk about the Boston Celtics, who ended up winning against the Portland Trailblazers 121-99. They become the first team to hit 50 wins in the season. The very first team to get 50 wins, and the record right now is 50-14. Obviously, that's very, very impressive. This is the year for the Boston Celtics to end up. This is the year for the Celtics to win. They absolutely cannot disappoint. If they disappoint yet again, they're in a very, very difficult spot, because, in my personal opinion, they keep running it back. They keep running it back every single time, because every single time they get so close to making it to the finals and doing something and winning, but they just always end up failing. I don't understand why. They get so close. And there comes a point where it's like, okay, do we just blow everything up now, or do we try again? And I have no idea when it's going to get to that point where they're just going to become insane. Because if they keep trying, the definition of insane is when you try something over and over and over again, expecting a different result. So if they keep trying to make it to the finals with Tatum over and over and over again, expecting a different result, that's the definition of insanity. And it's really confusing for me, because they have the pieces. They have everything that they need to succeed. I did not mean to rhyme there, but they have every single tool that you could possibly ask for on offense to be productive and to win the finals. They have a number one player. They have a number two player. They have a great center that can shoot and play defense. They have a number three player, arguably, who's also a defender. And they have a fifth option in case the 1, 2, 3, 4 don't show up. Not to mention, they also have players on the bench who can play their role to perfection. Look at Sam Hauser. He ended the game with 22 points coming off the bench and is a very underrated defender. He's the player that yes, Sam Hauser. He's the player that if you see clips on Instagram, he jumps up, but like he jumps up from the paint. And the logic behind that is that he jumps up from the paint because he's tall enough and his wingspan is long enough so that way when the player is shooting the ball, like you have to see the rim if you're shooting the ball. And what he does is he blocks the rim. Like he blocks everyone's eyesight from the rim from where he stands. And it's funny to see because it's like he's just jumping straight up in the sky and it looks goofy, but if you know what he's doing, so far nobody has been able to hit a shot when he does that. Like I haven't seen anyone be able to hit a shot when he does that kind of contest. And it's those little things that don't get talked about, but they could really be game changing in the playoffs. And again, as I mentioned earlier, all of these players, the entire starting five has the ability to drop 25 plus. We've seen Drew Holiday drop 25 plus in the playoffs. We see Jason Tatum drop 25 plus. We see what's it called? We see Jaylen Brown drop 25 plus. We see all of them with the ability to score on offense, and now we just need to see them do it again in the playoffs. They have everything that they need, but I just know somehow in some way they're going to blow it. I just know it's something that you can just feel in your gut. I just don't know why it's going to happen. And nobody really stood out for the Portland Trailblazers. Again, no one really stands out for Portland now that they got rid of Dame. So, with that in mind, not really much that needs to be said other than the fact that the Boston Celtics, now they've won 50 games. Moving on, the team that beat the Boston Celtics, the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets ended up coming back from down 20 from in the third quarter to beating the Toronto Raptors. I understand that like they shouldn't have been down 20 in the first place, but a win is a win is a win is a win. And the fact that they still know how to win in the fourth quarter, the most important quarter of basketball, is arguably the most important thing that any playoff team can have, apart from defense. Nikola Jokic ended the game with 35 points, 12 assists, and 17 rebounds. Jamal Murray ended the game with 26 points, 12 assists. Michael Porter Jr. ended the game with 19 points and 8 rebounds. Aaron Gordon ended the game with 19 points as well. Everybody played their role. And when everybody does their part on this Nuggets team, it's like they win the game every single time. Especially when Jokic drops a triple-double. He's going to be the MVP. He's going to lead the NBA in triple doubles. I have no doubt about that. He's going to lead the NBA in triple doubles eventually, and he's going to end up winning another MVP, which is actually going to get me into the next segment where I talk about Luka Doncic yet again because he's just breaking history now. Right now, he's on a ridiculous run of triple doubles, and I have to talk about it. I know it might get sick, but at least I'm not talking about LeBron, right, guys? You guys know, you guys cannot stand LeBron, and I don't blame you guys for not standing LeBron because he's so good. He's so good at basketball that you just have to hate. That's just how it works with him. But before I get into the Luka Doncic segment, I'm going to continue with this recap. There's only 2 games left to talk about. Golden State beating the San Antonio Spurs. I should also add that the Spurs became the first team to get eliminated from playoff contention. And when you have someone like Victor Wembanyama on the team, that is very, very concerning. I am not a big fan of Victor Wembanyama's teammates at all. I think they are immature. I think they are some of the worst basketball players that you could ever have because of how selfish they are. Jeremy Sochan, like he is the worst. I'm sorry to say it, he is so annoying to watch in my opinion because every single time he has the ball, he tries to throw the ball up like he's Kobe Bryant. And I'm like, just pass it to Wemby. He's so much taller than everyone. You can get 3 assists that way. And nobody passes it to him. And it's like he has to do everything himself. He ended the game with 27 points and 14 rebounds. Now, imagine if he had a guard that like could run pick and rolls. If he had Luca, say goodbye. If he had Trey Young, say goodbye. Maybe even someone that's not as that's not as impactful as him. If he had Drew Holiday, say goodbye. If he had what other point guard is good? What other point guard is pretty decent? If he had Kobe White, say goodbye. I mean, literally any point guard with IQ to pass would be able to make use of Victor Wembanyama, and it's really infuriating because he's so tall and his height does not get utilized whatsoever. I'm not entirely sure if Greg Popovich is going to continue being the coach for this team, given how they're not the same as they were, but we'll see. And also, I should also add that DeJounte Murray ended up saying that like when he did get traded over to the Hawks, he did say something along the lines of, if you see how the situation in San Antonio was lined up, we weren't winning. Something along those lines. Something about how like the trajectory of this team wasn't going where he expected it to go, and that's why he wanted out of San Antonio. And another game that ended up happening was the Phoenix Suns going up against the Cleveland Cavaliers. I said previously that I think the Suns should be ranked higher than the Cavs in the power rankings, and I was completely right because Kevin Durant, Devin Booker was back in this game, and they ended up winning against the Cavs 117 to 111. A little bit concerning how it took all three of these players to have a great game in order for them to win, but I guess it's not really surprising, but like against a team like the Cavs, I'd expect the scoring to be a lot more spread rather than just between the big three. Kevin Durant ended the game with 37 points, Devin Booker ended the game with 27 points, and Bradley Beal ended the game with 24 points. So ISO Gang figured it out, and hopefully now they just gotta stay healthy. All they have to do is stay healthy, and they have a shot. But with that, we are out of time for this third segment. So now we are going to go into the fourth segment where I talk about Luka Doncic yet again, breaking history. And the reason why I want to talk about him is because he is only ranked fifth in MVP voting. So I will be right back after this short break to talk about that.